Yes, okay, lovely. Well, I'm going to ask you perhaps to get rid of me and my shiny face so we can focus. That's it.
There we are.
We can, lovely. That's great. Let's begin. We're going to be looking at toddler tantrums from, people say it's the terrible twos. And because I'm all interested in positive parenting is about what I'm all about, I felt that we wanted to move from terrible to terrific. So there are some quick ways here, 14 apparently, I think, to tame your toddler's tantrums positively. So what's in this webinar? Well, let's look at why kids have tantrums. Let's look at ways to avoid them. And I hope to give you some tantrum tactics. And then what to do after the storm. Now, Forrest Witcraft is a hero of mine, and I'd like to introduce you to a quote by this man, Forrest Witcraft, that changed my life, actually, and it's been the driving passion behind all the work that I do. And I created a poster over it. It says, 50 years from now, it won't matter what kind of car you drove, what kind of house you lived in, how much you had in your bank account, or what your clothes looked like. But the world may be a little better because you were important in the life of a child. And you are that important person. So let's have a look at why the toddler tantrums are so important to make sure we get right and we don't damage our children's self-esteem. Now, I'm passionate about parenting, and I love helping parents like you get back into the driving seat of your family relationships. I want to boost your confidence. I want to put the bounce and laughter back, perhaps, into your family life around toddlers. And of course, this webinar is just one way that I do that with you now. Now, I'm not Super Nanny or a Mary Poppins or even a Nanny McPhee, because I don't tell people really how to run their lives, because I believe every family is unique and different. But what I can do as a parent coach is to help you find your own answers to your own family and take you from where you may be now to perhaps where you would like to go in your family relationships, and particularly with your young toddler or your young child. Now, I help you really look at the bigger picture, because this is important when you're a parent. We get very stuck in the socks and pants, and we get very stuck in the toddler tantrums, and it can be challenging and tiring, and it can be very stressful trying to get your little one to put on their shoes or do up their buttons, or get into the car and strap themselves into the car seat, or even that, the buggy scenarios that we can all get stuck in. But I want you to keep the bigger picture in your mind, and I want you to take this whole experience from terrible and reframe your language around it and your mindset around it into looking at helping your toddler be terrific, because I want this to be a quick and easy reference resource for you to help you handle sometimes the difficult business of bringing up happy, confident, well-balanced children. So this webinar actually is only a very small part of my toddler eCourse system. I've written a 24-week toddler eCourse system that will help you as a parent develop your own confidence, your own style and your own rhythm, helping you feel less stressed and more energized and in control of your family, which I think is absolutely vital for bringing up confident, well-behaved adults, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise happy, confident adults, because they're today's toddler, but they are tomorrow's future. So my toddler e-course is actually full of great ideas and tips and practical suggestions to support you, encourage you, and give you, tried and tested solutions, because I know firsthand how difficult and demanding bringing up small children really is. And I know that kids don't come with a handbook, and they always say, don't they, don't work with animals or children. So the e-course is all a 24-week, and it comes out each week in a bite-sized, easily practical and very manageable emails when you join my parenting club. And it's completely free. So do go and check that out later if you want more detail, because this is only a certain amount I can cover in such a short time. But that's a very comprehensive thing, and it's a video. It's got videos as well. Now, I'm a bit different to most parenting experts, or what they call gurus, which I don't like because that seems like, a bit arrogant. I've actually got 2 kids of my own, and although my son Will is 25 and my daughter is 23, I clearly remember the ups and downs of trying to lift a double buggy. I remember having this double buggy. Oh my goodness. It was so heavy trying to lift it up a flight of stairs. And I remember, trying to strap Will into his car seat when it was raining, and he was having none of that. And I also remember trying to ignore Molly's temper tantrum in Sainsbury's in Purley just by the sweet counter. So I have been there, done it, and got the T-shirt. So I'd like to be practical then on the way we go forward. So I want you to know about me and my journey, really. And before we begin tonight on our journey, and as we go through raising happy, confident kids generally, I want you to pretend that you've hired me to be your own personal coach. And I hope you get the best out of our time here tonight together. And I want you to enjoy perhaps doing some of the exercises and some of the thoughts, and enjoy learning new and different ways to parent and handle the changes of toddlerhood with your kids. I think it takes courage to be curious about exploring new ways to do things, because it was Einstein who said that the definition of madness was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Now, I do feel working with toddlers or bringing up toddlers is a bit like trying to tame jelly. It can feel all wobbles and no rules, because one minute they'll eat something that you think is lovely, and the next day they won't eat it. They'll put their coat on today with no trouble, and tomorrow they won't. So it can be quite stressful, and taming jelly was an analogy that came to mind when I was raising my kids. So this webinar is designed to unlock your confidence and to get you into a sort of a playful and curious state as we explore your parenting potential. Now, the key thing to remember is what you practice, you become. So it's a bit like learning anything new. So the trick here really around toddlerhood is, I think, is to be positive, but to relax and breathe deeply, and to remember that it just takes a little bit of practice to learn a new habit or a new skill or a new way that you're going to perhaps, work with your toddler if you're struggling at the moment. And one of the key habits of successful parents is to feel confident in control and being open-minded and flexible, because I think that helps you then go on the journey and helping your toddlers easily. Now, this is a period of handling change. They've been adorable babies. You've played with them, they've cooed, you've bathed them, they're adorable. But you see, as they become toddlers, they start to have their own personalities. And because perhaps they don't have sufficient language, sometimes they get frustrated and they're struggling to become independent, and they want to feel competent and capable. But really, they don't have sometimes the dexterity to do some of the things they're trying to do. And they certainly don't have control of their own emotions. And for you, you have to be that sort of secure anchor in the world where everything is spinning a bit faster than usual. And I believe that success and happiness are not just something that happens to some parents and not others. I believe they're a bit predictable if you start acting and thinking in a different way. Because really, this period of toddlerhood is all about change. And if you see it as being the terrible twos, then of course it will be. And if you see it as being, oh my goodness, isn't it wonderful? My little child is growing, changing, developing, and trying to become independent, then I think you will reframe it and you'll go through it much happier. As I've said, if you expect the toddler years to be full of angst and tantrums and stress and painful for everyone, it will be, because you tend to get tense and anxious when you're out and about with your toddler. And of course, they sense that and they play up to that as well. And if you just relax and expect to sail through with a bit of laughter, I think you'll also try that, and that could work too. It's a balance, isn't it, between all those things. But I do think it is seriously about your focus, your mindset, and your attitude. Now, I'm not underestimating the often difficult emotions involved in handling your toddler striving to become more independent, but I passionately believe that change can be handled easily if I give you some strategies around it. So we're going to crack on with this webinar about exploring ways for you and your child to look at their growing need to become more of an independent, capable and competent and certainly independent individual. They're struggling for autonomy. So in life, I think you get what you focus on. And I've said it before, this is about, if you handle it in a generally positive manner, the whole experience will be better for your children too. So my purpose here as the parent coach is to encourage you to find your own answers and take responsibility for your family's way of doing things. Because I don't actually think necessarily there is a complete right and wrong way to handle your toddler's need for independence. You know your child very well, but I do think it's about you learning to feel confident and giving that vibe out to your little one that helps you feel more in control of your life, and that helps them feel grounded and centered, and then everyone can relax a little more. Now, things are forever changing at a greater speed than in past generations. So there is a great deal of advice out there on the telly and on the internet. I know that. And there's loads in books telling you how to bring up your toddler. So, of course, you may be feeling that you aren't doing it properly or aren't getting it right. Well, I don't feel that that's my style of doing things. I tend to, when I'm working personally one-to-one with clients, I feel that I ask you the good questions to help you find your own answers. Now, I believe you can get it right, and I also believe the answers are within you, because as I said before, I think you know your own child the best. You love your child completely, and you know deep down what's right for them and what's right for you. So it's not about me telling you how to do it. It's about, as I've said, asking good questions to help you find your own answers. Because I think if I do that, I'll give you confidence in your own ability as a parent, and that is my intention. So by joining this webinar, you've done a remarkable thing, Chris. You've invested your time on learning and exploring a key skill that sets you out from 98% of those who spend more time learning how to work their computer or their smart TV or a washing machine than actually exploring how to be the best parent they can ever be. So together, we're going to help you handle the changes of your child growing up so you can all feel happier, more confident and relaxed. Now, here are my basic assumptions about you. You love your children and want the best for them. You're curious, intrigued and open-minded about exploring new ways to parent your toddler. And all the resources and answers I believe that you need for your family are already within you. And I hope that you're fascinated about better ways to communicate with your toddler. And I hope that you're willing to have a go at new ways of doing things. And as I've said, I don't really think there are complete right and wrong ways to do it. And there is no perfect parent, only personal choices as well. And I also believe there's no such thing as being a failure. I think there's only learning and feedback. You keep doing things and trialing it and seeing what works and what doesn't work with your little one, because everything and everyone makes mistakes and we have setbacks, but it's what we learn from these things that are important. And as I've said, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. So just be a real one. So for me, I think the really simple secret to parenting success is know what you want, take action, notice what's not working. So be observant and mindful. And imagine you've got a camcorder on your shoulder sometimes throughout the week, noticing what you say, how you say it, and your body language and your tone of voice. Because children are learning all of these things from you. If you're running on empty, if you're tired, they're going to pick that up and they're going to play you up. Are they overtired? Are they hungry? So all these things you need to be observing. And then notice what's not working and then try something else. It's all trial and error really to start with. So with those ideas in mind, let's crack on. Tantrums, can't even say it, tantrums and tiaras. Why your kids have tantrums. Now, temper tantrums range from whining and crying and screaming, kicking, hitting, and breath holding, and they're equally common in boys and girls, and they're usually around about from the age of 1 to 3, round about that time. But some kids may have tantrums more often and others have them rarely. Some kids sail through without many tantrums. I don't really remember that many with my own kids, but I do remember that one in Pearly Sainsbury's. But tantrums are a normal part of your child's development. I want you to really, really embrace that, because they are the way that young children express to you that they're upset or they're frustrated. and it's perfectly normal. Now, tantrums usually happen around, as I say, around about the age of 2. That's why they call them the terrible twos. But as all children are all individuals and they don't follow a handbook, tantrums can happen at any time around that age, before or after. And in fact, many children continue to have the occasional tantrum. We've all seen them, haven't we? Until they're around about 5 or 6. But it's much easier to reason with them then and talk it through with them. Now, these outbursts are often called temper tantrums because of the obvious link with angry feelings that your child is feeling, that they're feeling out of control. And there are other strong emotions that your toddler could be feeling as well. It's really important to recognise the triggers for a tantrum. Because if you can do this in your household with your children or your child, you'll be able to head them off. And by that, I mean you'll be able to notice when that might be coming, that trigger, or that inevitable angry outburst. And then you can act before they blow themselves into an unmanageable volcano and erupt. So try and assess when they happen most often. Is it when you're at the shops? Is it when you're on your phone? Is it when they're hungry or bored or cold, or when just not getting enough attention? I was talking today with somebody and a client about, she goes to the nail bar to have her nails done and her toddler comes with her, but she doesn't bring anything for the toddler to do, and he gets very, very naughty, and then when she tells him off, he goes into a tantrum. So we looked at that and we looked at different ways perhaps she could have her, she was talking about sharing childcare with her friend while she goes and has her nails done. They do a swap. Or she was looking at her mum popping over for an hour so that they didn't have to bring their toddler to the shop. Or if that doesn't work, we looked at bringing a little rucksack with some toys that were on a rotational basis that he hadn't seen for a while. So he got all intrigued and interested in them again like they were new toys, so that he would, be busy. And therefore he wouldn't get naughty and he wouldn't throw a tantrum because she was occupied doing something else. Now, I think if you know when they're likely to happen, it makes sense to try to avoid those situations if at all possible. So you can fend off and you can preempt the tantrum before it has time to sort of explode into a big full-blown one. Now, it's important to remember throughout the whole tantrum dilemma to remain cool, to remain calm, to remain collected and completely in control at all times. I know this is really difficult for you when the queue at Tesco's or Sainsbury's is watching you, but you need to be the adult in this situation because your child's emotions are running away with them, and they are sometimes a bit scared by their own strength of emotion or anger or frustration or whatever they're feeling. So you need to give them security and safe boundaries to your child if they're feeling a bit out of control. Now, the other thing I said is I want you to notice your particular tantrum triggers. Is it frustration? Does it happen when they're not able, or capable just yet of doing something that they want to do? Like, I don't know, doing up their coat buttons or reaching the loo or tying their shoelaces. Or it may also come from not being able to make you and other people understand what they want because they don't have the vocabulary yet to express themselves. So once you've noticed that, that will start to help you preempt.
So yes. Chris has put the comment in there. Usually when he's tired, his son.
Is when that happens, yes?
Yeah.
Well, then, so the other thing to try and preempt is to plan out your week or plan out your day to preempt that. So if you have to do certain jobs or you have to do certain things, then it's trying to make sure that he has a nap or she has a nap before you have to go to the supermarket or before you visit a friend or perhaps, whatever it may be, so that you have sort of allowed your child to have their nap or to have their natural kind of break. So that then means that they won't be tired. And another one is often hunger as well. Does that answer your question on tiredness, Chris? Okay, so let's continue on looking at tantrum triggers. They usually come around because they have a desire for independence. Simple things such as strapping your child into their high chair, a buggy or a car seat, or helping them to cut up vegetables can seem from their point of view like a deliberate attempt to take away their independence from them. So sometimes they'll fight you over these very small but really important issues for them, because one of the tantrum triggers is that they really are struggling to be competent and capable and independent, and sometimes they just don't have that dexterity to do it. As we said, hunger or tiredness. You said, Chris, about tiredness. Now, your toddler is more likely to behave badly and go into one when they do feel tired or hungry or thirsty. So try and preempt that and make sure that you sort of plan your day to alleviate from sort of making that happen too often. Often it can be because they've been refused something. You may have said no to a biscuit or taking off their jumper, or they may have had a tantrum when another child won't share their toys or their game with them. Of course, some of it is about wanting your attention, because we are busy. A lot of the time we're on our mobile phones, or sometimes we're working from home, or we have jobs to do like the ironing or the washing, or emptying the dishwasher. And most toddlers just love to be the centre of attention. And so any attention is better than none, even if it's a bit of a negative piece of attention. And they may have found being naughty gets your full attention, and they have unconsciously learnt that this is a great way to get the attention that they're craving. So pause to ponder that. Just, I always say that children spell love T-I-M-E. And let's fill up their tank of playing with them, reading to them, listening to them, doing a board game with, a jigsaw or something with them, so that they feel that that's positive attention, and they don't then need to, if you are busy and you just say, wait a moment, they don't necessarily go into a tantrum, because they know that you're busy, but you will come and spend time with them doing something positive soon. Also, another thing is overload. There are days when your child may be on a roller coaster of emotions, and a tantrum will be an inevitable result of not being mature enough to cope. So don't overschedule your day. Some parents I work with, they are rushing from one thing to the next thing, from tumble tots to this, from that to over there, and then we're going there, and then we've got a party. Sometimes children get overwhelmed with, all the activities that you're doing. So do have perhaps a downtime. Now, my behaviour diary is free from my website, and you can download it here, which will help you to work out, perhaps, and spot your child's tantrum triggers. So if you go to that link, we'll get someone to pop that into an email to you if you want me to after this tomorrow. If you haven't got the details from it, we can send it out to you. It's on there on my website, because that will really help you notice what perhaps are your child's particular triggers. Is it always on a Wednesday when you've come back from swimming, or whatever it may be on a Thursday after they've come back from the childminder or nursery? So let's look at avoiding tantrums. Now, with a little bit of forward thinking, it's completely possible to cut down on your toddler's tantrums and make them less stressful for both of you. I want you to look for signs. Most toddlers give plenty of warnings, actually, that they're getting angry, they're getting frustrated, or they're getting tired. So be a detective. Imagine yourself as Luther or Sherlock Holmes or something, looking for clues for your particular child's sign, and be ready to step in and divert their attention. I'm a great believer in diverting. I remember saying to Will sometimes, oh, just come over here. I think that, we need to look at this. And isn't this fascinating? Look at this butterfly, or whatever it might be. And that just helps to preempt it. To avoid tantrums, offer control and choices. It's really irritating for toddlers to feel that they don't have a say, or they can't make decisions. This is part of their need to be autonomous, independent, and capable. And of course, they can't make huge, big decisions. That wouldn't be appropriate. But get into the habit of providing 2 choices whenever possible. Any more, I feel, and you overwhelm them. Other people advocate 3, but I tend to like the idea of 2. I mean, if you think of going into Costa Coffee and you just want a cup of coffee, and look at all those choices sometimes they run you through, and all you want is just, you know, a simple filter. So I think a limited choice. Are you going to wear your pink jumper or your blue jumper? Oh, that's too stereotypical. Are you going to wear your orange jumper or your green jumper or your blue Wellingtons, or, you know, your, I don't know, your pink coat or whatever it might be? Offer the 2 choices, because actually what's implied by orange jumper or green jumper is you're in control actually because it's cold outside and they need to wear a jumper. So it's implied that you are telling them really that they're wearing a jumper, but they feel a degree of control and independence and choice. They can choose which colour. And that is often such a simple thing. Are you going to have orange juice or milk? You know, with older children, I always say, this is for later on, are you going to do your homework before or after your dinner? But that's for another webinar in another few years. Now, I want you to be a positive role model. If they see you flying off the handle when someone cuts you up on the motorway or at the slightest irritation, then they'll naturally copy you, because kids are noticing you. They're looking at you, watching you, listening to you, observing you, and learning from you in what you say and how you say it and what you do. And they remember far more what you do than what you say. So do learn to manage your own anger positively first. I want you to get into the habit of praising them when they get something right. So many parents say, no, we can't do this. No, you can't do that. Don't touch that. Don't put that. We're going to grandma's. Don't touch the glass vase. Don't put that on there. Don't do this. Don't reach that. So I want you to stop that, because that must be demoralizing. I want you to give your toddler plenty of praise. Catch them doing things right. Encourage good behavior by by praising them, and be very, very specific about what you've seen them do or what you've heard, as it teaches your toddler what you want to see more of. And they love to please you. And that's a very positive way of dealing with it, giving plenty of praise, a hug, a smile, ruffle of their hair, whatever it may be, something very simple, or a high five. I want you to imagine that you're feeding the parking meter. Just as feeding a pound coin into a parking meter all day long protects you from getting a dreaded parking ticket, so does many little but often bursts of attention for your toddler throughout the day. So help them to avoid their temper tantrums by filling up their bucket of confidence or praise, or certainly then the concept of feeding the parking meter is putting in little bits of, little bits of attention, because this idea will also create a growing relationship of cooperation, caring and fun with your toddler too. And as I've said, children spell love T-I-M-E. Now, dealing with tantrums. If preempting didn't work, here are some ideas to try. I want you to keep calm. Take your energy just below your tummy button and breathe deeply and slowly. It really makes a difference, as your toddler will start to automatically copy your regular rhythmic breathing, and that takes them down a level into a more relaxed place. Say an affirmation under your breath or out loud if you like. I'm grounded, I'm centered, I'm positive, I'm happy, I'm relaxed, and I'm confident. Because you're going to hold the space for them. You're going to be that anchor at the bottom of the ocean, or that deep-rooted oak tree with those deep roots. You're going to hold that space while they are busy flailing around at the top of the water, perhaps, symbolically. I want you to think about diverting and distracting. It's sometimes possible to distract a toddler into looking for fairies. That was the example I was going to use again earlier, because I remember doing that with Will, walking down the road, and we started to look for fairies and butterflies, or, at some amazing, fascinating object in your hands before the tantrum actually takes off. So start to notice how your child goes into one. Does their breathing increase? Do they start to go red? Do they start rushing about? What are those triggers that your particular child may do, so you can divert them and distract them and preempt what may be happening? So let's.
So do you want to just pause there and have a look at what Chris has put there?
Now, how do I get out to that again? I've made everything small, so I need to. How do I get it all? Oh, here we go. Hello, Chris. So I don't know where's my group chat gone again. Let's have a look. Has it gone up there?
If you hover your mouse right at the top of the screen again.
There we go. Okay. Although Kian is 3 and doesn't have a nap at the moment, the hunger is definitely a trigger, although he's very single-minded. He's going to be a leader. How about that? That sounds like he's going to be a leader if he's single-minded. I love that. An example of Kian's tantrums are not wanting to go to nursery, bath time, but can be just us asking him to do anything he doesn't want to do. Yes, it's about your confidence too. What can happen is if you kind of get intense in case he goes into one, sometimes we get a little bit anxious. This is about your own confidence and noticing that he doesn't want to go to nursery, but then I would be looking at perhaps the way you talk about nursery and the way what links up to that, so that you help him start to enjoy it. Sort of find out how he behaves when he is at nursery and help him with that transition from leaving you. Sometimes it's a sort of I don't want to leave you. What are you doing that's exciting or interesting? Or it may be that you're rushing in the morning and you haven't got time, and it's hurry up and eat your breakfast, put your shoes on, let's go to nursery. Sometimes spending time with toddlers, you can swap it around. If you get up half an hour earlier yourself and get yourself ready and organised, sometimes spending time with the little one in the morning before they go off to nursery is your quality time. It doesn't always have to be when you come back from work. So I'd be looking and noticing what possibly happens before you start, and the way you speak about it. It may be something to do with that. Bath time, again, sometimes these things are about control, aren't they? That he feels he wants to be in control, and you're going, I'm apologetic about some of these things. He's getting better. Rushing is definitely something that we do. Yeah, well, try that, Chris, for a week, just looking at maybe you getting up, or your partner a bit earlier, lay the breakfast things out the night before, or something very practical like that, so that you don't rush him. And remember that he may not enjoy the idea of leaving you, maybe the reason for it, and you've got to go to nursery and we've all got things to do. But that rushing around can make a child feel sometimes unimportant. So look at that, try that for this week, and slow down perhaps and see how that goes, and speak about nursery in a nice way. But do let me know, send me an email how you get on trying different things this week, and I hope that helps. So let's carry on, if that's all right. Keep calm, and yeah, we've done that one, and here we go. Now, another thing, if you go, what? Ignore the behaviour? I couldn't possibly do that. That would be awful. But sometimes walking away yourself and pretending to take no notice of their tantrum, and I don't mean leaving them, in the middle of, the high road or anything dangerous, but sometimes we feed their frenzy of attention by kind of being anxious and overcompensating. So sometimes being sort of matter-of-fact about it. I mean, if you have to, if they have to hold your hand crossing the road, then they have to hold your hand. This is not negotiable. But then things that don't matter so much, if you try and sort of ignore it sometimes, it's just a different strategy. And they kind of go, oh, well, that didn't work. And it gives everybody time to sort of calm down. And it's unlikely to work then once the tantrum's in full flow, then it's difficult. But do try and explore, not always jumping straight into the tantrum, giving your power to your little one, because actually they are only 2 or 3, and they have, it's almost like you're giving them the keys to the 4x4, and of course they haven't passed their test. And a lot of parents feel that they, pass over their power back to their little one, and they're not able to cope with all those big decisions. And of course, they're children. They need you to teach them, and they need to be safe. And there are some rules that they just have to obey, But when that's all done, hold your child close and be gentle and be relaxed and be quiet. And in fact, if you go very quiet yourself and calm, something happens in our energy, in our body, where we kind of go into a kind of calm state. And that can really help our little ones relax and sort of go into a more calmer state. What we call pace and lead in my training with NLP, but they follow you because you've led them to a quieter, more soothing, calm place. Now, time out. If your toddler is over 18 months old and you're feeling that you're about to lose your temper, then put them somewhere safe where you can leave them alone, preferably for a couple of minutes. A boring place is best with no toys, but only leave them there for a couple of minutes. Some people leave them there for far too long. Actually, I'm an advocate of time out for you. I don't favour time out on the stairs and time out in certain places. But I think time out is actually really a quick way to ground yourself, because they do press our buttons and they do wind us up. So think of time out in a different way, not for the child, but for you. Now, the other thing I have with lots of parents I work with, they take it very personally, their tantrum. Now, toddlers are egocentric. It's all about them. That's a stage of their development. They're not able to be empathetic. That's why they don't share toys. That's why they don't understand if, you don't do what they want to do, because they're not able quite yet to take it all in. But it's never personal. It's about their need for, independence, really. And I don't like it if someone said to me, you don't need to wear your cardigan, you're not cold. Well, I'd feel a bit affronted about that and get kind of annoyed. So put yourself sometimes into the shoes and socks of your child. I know that sounds a bit odd, but sometimes when you're pausing to ponder, you're washing up or driving in the car or something, or listening to music, ponder what it must feel like when you say certain things to your toddler and see it from their point of view. Stand in their shoes and in their socks in your imagination, see what you see, hear what you hear from you, and feel how you feel being spoken to by your parent like that. That's an amazing thing to do. Lots of parents I work with find that particular strategy to be fascinating and enlightening. I remember a lady I worked with, she had a new baby and she was bathing them, and the older toddler was running around really being naughty when she was giving her attention to the baby in the bath. And she would overcompensate. She started to increase and do more and more stories. And he was having 3 stories a night and she was exhausted. So, one of the things I suggested to her is to do this exercise where she stood on the carpet or on this piece of paper with her son's name on it. And I just said, right, so imagine you are on the piece of paper, talk to me as column. And I said, what do you see? And she just said, oh, mum's a pushover. And then she burst into tears. And I said, oh my goodness, it's not meant for that. She said, no, I know, but now I've got a different insight into what he's thinking, what he's seeing, how he's acting. And of course he was jealous. It was sibling rivalry of the baby getting all the attention there. So I helped her get the toddler to come and help with the baby in the bath. And he was washing the baby's back and going to get the soap and doing all that. She was empowering the little toddler. So he didn't feel so jealous of his baby. So it's about sort of seeing things from your toddler's point of view and seeing if you can change something, not beating yourself up, just doing something in a different way. Now, you can confiscate toys. If your toddler throws a toy at you, take it away and put it in the timeout area if you want, and explain that you get the toy back perhaps when they've shown that they can look after it a bit better. But once a tantrum blows over, don't dwell on it. Right? For me, your toddler's often quite afraid by the strong emotions, and you need to give them loving reassurance that they're safe, that they're loved, that it's sort of okay that they've expressed these strong emotions. You're there now as a parent to help them, not judge them, and more importantly, teaching them that it's the behaviour that you don't like, not them. And I've just been interviewed actually by The Sun, and we've done some videos around a campaign about shaming children. This is not about shaming your child into behaving well. This is about nurturing them through love, kindness and patience while they learn about their own emotions and they learn about growing up and becoming independent. So handling your toddler's tantrum positively is for you to stay calm and for you to stay in control. One of the key things to remember is to remain calm and in control of yourself at all times. So take a breath and center yourself and prepare, to get grounded and relaxed. As I've said, temper tantrums are simply part of your child's development because your toddler's reached a point in their lives when they have an intense desire to learn and do new things. Their brain synapses are growing at an extraordinary rate during these 2 to 3 years old. Their mental and motor skills have developed really rapidly, and their ability to communicate effectively is all growing, and they're becoming more independent and able to do more things for themselves. But sometimes, each child is different. They can't yet verbalize. They haven't got the vocabulary to express their frustrations, and so they will throw a tantrum. Your actions, of course, set an example to your child. Hitting, and it doesn't help, and that sends the message that using physical punishment is okay. And of course, that can result in even more behaviours that aren't helpful in the long run. So instead, please have some self-control, and that will teach your child to learn eventually to control themselves. It's called self-modulating. Now, tantrums should be handled differently depending on why your child is upset. Sometimes you may need to provide comfort. Other times it's best to ignore an outburst and distract them with a new activity. But if they are upset, then it's about providing kindness and comfort to them while they're trying to work through what is causing their distress. Sometimes it's about getting their own way, and even at the age of 2, little ones have learned that they can manipulate you. And if you believe that the tantrums are a means of getting their own way, then you have to look at your body language and words and tone of voice. And you just sometimes have to be matter of fact and say, right, well, we're not doing tantrums today. Come on, get your coat on. We're going off to grandma's. This is an early lesson in toddler discipline. It's about not accepting some of the behaviour because it's going to teach them that they won't get their intended result. And your child will soon learn that their outbursts sometimes are just in vain. You're just matter of fact about it. I'm not doing tantrums today. We've talked about frustration a great deal. And, it's, as we've said, born out of a lot of time frustration. Then you need to display empathy and kindness, because I think it's an opportunity to bond with your child, to show them patience and understanding, and to show them and appease them and help them, and sometimes name the emotion. That must be, you'll learn big words from you. That must be frustrated at not being able to complete a task, and show that you understand that it might be tricky. Then go and help them out and make it and show them how to do something. Help them become more independent. And it's perfectly normal part of their development, and it's to be embraced. So let's look at triggers. It's also really important to recognise the triggers for a tantrum, because then you'll be able to head off the inevitable angry outburst. So try and assess when they happen most often. Is it when you're at the shops, on the phone, when they're perhaps hungry or bored, or even cold, or perhaps you're not just giving them enough attention? Because if you know when they're likely to happen, it can make sense for you to try and avoid these situations so you can fend off and preempt the tantrum. So let's look at staying cool and calm. I think it's important for you to remain cool and calm and collected and completely in control at all times. Now, I know this is difficult when the whole of the supermarket queue is watching you, but you need to be the adult. You need to be giving security and safe boundaries to your child whilst they're out of control. Because toddlers often feel a bit frightened of what's happening to them. So by remaining calm, you're helping them to relax and to feel safe. Why don't you try breathing slowly and rhythmically, and you'll watch your child copy your breathing and calm down naturally, even by just holding them and breathing slowly. Perhaps you can give them a hug and a smile to reassure them that everything is all right after the outburst and they've calmed down. Now, young toddlers also can actually be manipulative, even if they don't fully understand or realise it. They are also incredibly perceptive And if their tantrums get a frustrated and angry response from you, it will cause more stress and anxiety within your child. Now, of course, your toddler will know what buttons to press just to get a response from you. So learning to control your emotions in these difficult times is really important, as it will soothe, placate, and ward off the tantrums as opposed to exacerbating them and escalating them. So let's look at setting boundaries. Even at this young age, teaching your child what is and what isn't acceptable is an absolutely vital part of their development. Setting boundaries of what's acceptable for you and for your family generally will make it much clearer to them where they stand, and the less confusion that they have in their lives, the better. Now, their world at this stage and age is a very small place, and you are the centre. You're right in the central hub of it. So try to ensure that you're at hand to lead them along the path, so to speak, being supportive and fully giving them praise. But be sure to set those boundaries of acceptable, boundaries as you go, and make sure you stick to them. Now, I want you to get prepared, because tantrums are coming if you're just before this stage. And I want you to recognize the triggers, and I want you to practice the most effective means of dealing with them, because that will certainly be a great help to you as you navigate the choppy waters of taming toddlers, which I've said many times before, feels a bit like trying to tame jelly, all wobbles and no rules. But remember, it's really just about your toddler exploring their boundaries and their sense of independence. So it's something to be welcomed, because it's another stage in their development. And it helps to remember that this stage won't last forever, and that a smile is a curve that puts a lot of things straight. So let's look at summing up and ways to avoid tantrums. Give plenty of positive attention. Get in the habit of catching your child being good and doing the right thing. Smile and pat them on the head or give them a hug. Reward your little one with praise and attention for their positive behaviour. Try to give your toddler some control over little things. So I always suggest just 2 limited choices. Do you want the green jumper or the orange jumper? Do you want juice, or do you want milk, or whatever it is you're offering? Keep off limits objects, keep those off limit objects out of sight and out of reach, because it stops you constantly having to say no, no, no. Because, if you've preempted it, this makes some of the struggles less likely. Try distracting your child. I used to use this quite a lot with my kids. Take advantage of your little one's short attention span by offering something else in place of what they can't have. Start a new activity to replace the frustrating or the forbidden one, or simply change the environment. Take your toddler outside or inside, or move to a different room. Change it up and shake it up a bit. Also, help your toddler to learn new skills and therefore to succeed. That really does reduce their frustration. Help them to feel capable and competent. Help your toddler to learn to do things for themselves. Praise them and help them feel proud of what they can do. Also, start with something simple before moving on to more challenging tasks. Consider the request carefully that they're asking you when your child wants something. Just pause for a minute and think, well, is it actually outrageous? Because perhaps it isn't. So choose your battles and accommodate when you can. I want you to also think about and know your own child's limits. You know your child better than anyone else in the world. And you know if your toddler's tired, and so that's then not the best time to go food shopping or to try and squeeze in one more errand. But if it's a safety issue, and if it's involved then with your toddler, you really must repeat that the forbidden behaviour is, something that's very important to you, and you need to tell them to stop. Stop what you're doing, and I want you to get down to their eye level and mean what you say. And make sure your body language means it, and your tone of voice means it too. Because sometimes safety issues you can't negotiate on and you can't mess around with. So you need to be consistent, and they'll know the difference sometimes when you suddenly just get very serious about something and you mean it. So be consistent on that, and don't give in on safety issues ever. So after the storm has passed and they've had their paddy or their tantrum, don't reward your child's tantrum by giving in. This will only prove to your little one that the tantrum was effective. Instead, verbally praise your child for regaining control of themselves and calming down. Also, children may be especially vulnerable after a tantrum when they know they've been less than adorable. So now that your child is calm, is the time then for a hug and a bit of reassurance that your child is loved no matter what, because that is unconditional love. And sometimes their own anger frightens them, so they need you to give them a hug to reassure them that it's all okay. Make sure that your child is getting enough sleep. With too little sleep, kids can become hyper, they can become disagreeable, and they can have extremes in behavior. Sleep is a very important issue. Don't cut back on the amount of sleep that your child gets, because getting enough sleep can dramatically reduce tantrums. Now, most toddlers need 10 hours of sleep per day, and that does include one nap. So do make sure you're looking at sleep as a possible trigger. So let me tell you about my quick win videos. Check out my quick win video series on the step family cycle, on potty training, on bullying, on giving kids self-esteem, on how to handle divorce, and I've got lots more. Every Monday we release 4 videos, whether it's babies, toddlers, school age or teenagers, and they're called Quick Win, and they're in my parenting club, and there's a link at the bottom there to how you can go and find my video series. Just short and sharp, very practical tips around raising happy, confident, resilient kids. Go and check out my e-courses. There's recently been one on work-life balance. We've done the I Can Confidence Parenting course. If your kids are aged between 7 and 13, you need some ideas for that. I've done my Parenting Made Easy toddler system, which is a very comprehensive 24-week e-course on raising happy toddlers, from fussy eating to sleep, to bedtimes, to tantrums, again, in more detail. I've also got Navigating the Choppy Waters of the Teenage Years, Divorce Step by Step, and an e-course on how to raise confident kids. And just recently, we've just done another one on making the big leap to secondary school confidently. And you can see the link there at the bottom too, to follow to find out more about all these e-courses. And every month we release them around about the 18th of the month. And we've got one coming up on autism, dyslexia, bullying, and school issues and friendships. And of course, my webinars. So check out my monthly webinars, which we do every month around about the middle of the month, on confidence, divorce, autism, dyslexia, and much more. So also, I'd love you to join my parenting online club, because for less than £5 a week, which is less than a coffee and a cake in Costa, you can get all my exclusive information, all sorts of things that we've done, the videos, the webinars, the articles, the podcasts, and with experts all around the world. So you jump on there, and I'd love to meet you on that side of the club. Any more questions, please let me know, and drop me an email at sue@thesueatkins.com. So thank you. You can find me on Twitter as Sue Atkins. You can find me on Facebook as Sue Atkins, the parenting expert, or you can find me on Instagram at Sue Atkins 18. And if you fancy hopping over to LinkedIn, I'm on there, of course, as well as Sue Atkins. So I hope you found this webinar helpful, and thank you for joining us. And until next time, take care. Let's learn, let's laugh, and let's enjoy the adventure together.